exactly the same way in fish, frogs, hogs, dogs, cats, humans, you name it. What's more is, my graduate students showing me if you take human breast cancer cells and expose them to atrazine, they start making aromatase. Here's my estimate. Breast cancer is estrogen dependent. Does that make any sense? You get breast cancer after menopause typically, when your blood levels of estrogen are lower than they've ever been in your life. Turns out though, that when you get breast cancer, they express aromatase, they make their own estrogen, and that's what causes those damaged cells to turn into tumors and grow. This is so important that the number one treatment for breast cancer right now, chemicals like letrozole, which decreases aromatase, decreases estrogen, and stops those damaged cells from turning into tumors. How much sense does that make when we're using 80 million pounds a year of the most potent contaminant of water that does exactly the opposite? And we know it promotes and induces breast cancer in rats. It made sense to somebody, because the Vertebrate Zoology offers treatments. That's right, the same company that sold us 80 million pounds of atrazine that turns on aromatase now sells the number one treatment for breast cancer, which blocks aromatase. So if you're living in the Midwest taking letrozole to block your aromatase, how is that impacted? By the atrazine in your drinking water that's turning on aromatase. In fact, I wrote a paper that ended up in the president's panel on the environment of cancer. So it presumably went straight to Obama's office. Syngenta immediately wrote to my team. They do that a lot. They said, quote, while Syngenta does share some corporate history with Novartis and AstraZeneca, it has been completely independent of both since November 2000. Syngenta simply does not manufacture cell pharmaceutical products. Well, it turns out that in January 2000, they wrote this now, not me. They wrote, quote, the observed induction of aromatase, the rate-limiting enzyme in the conversion of androgens to estrogens, may be an underlying explanation for some of the reported hormonal disrupting and tumor-promoting properties of these herbicides in vitro. In that same year, in July 2000, the FDA reports that a marketing application for letrozole was applied for by Novartis. So I'm not saying there's any kind of conspiracy. I'm just saying what an interesting chronological coincidence that in January 2000, they discovered that atrazine induces aromatase and promotes breast cancer. By July of 2000, they start selling aromatase blocker to treat breast cancer, and by November 2000, they stop selling atrazine and spin off another company to sell it. I'm just saying it's an interesting coincidence, that's all. So in closing, again, I think